They thought she was just another quiet black girl, new, harmless, invisible. But when the wrong people picked the wrong target, they didn't know what they had stepped into. Ilana Rivers didn't come to make noise. She came to survive her final year. What no one expected was what she was prepared to do to make it. The yellow school bus pulled up to the front of Brookdale High, its brakes hissing as it rolled to a stop. The doors creaked open, and students began to pour out, laughing, nudging, chatting in groups that had long since drawn their lines. At the very end, stepping down alone, was a girl with a faded black backpack, headphones around her neck, and a face that gave away nothing. 17-year-old Alana Rivers adjusted the strap of her bag and took a slow, measured breath. The brick building looming in front of her could have been anywhere. Detroit, Chicago, Baltimore. Different name, same walls, same rules. Walk with your head down. Don't speak unless spoken to. Keep your business to yourself. That's how you survived in schools like this, especially when you were a quiet black girl in a place that wasn't built for you. Brookdale High was known for its fancy science labs, state championships, and glossy brochures full of smiling, mostly white faces. But behind the posters and the polished facade, it was just another place where girls like Alana were seen but not heard, tolerated but never really welcomed. She wasn't here to make friends. She wasn't here to impress anyone. She had one goal: finish senior year, graduate, and move on. Her mom had said it would be better here, safer, smaller, fewer fights, more structure. But Alana knew better. Places like this didn't need fists to be cruel. They had whispers, looks, laughs, quiet rules about who belonged and who didn't. As she stepped into the building, the air shifted. Heads turned, eyes tracked her steps. Whispers started before she even made it past the lockers. Is she new? She's from Detroit, I heard. Bet she thinks she's tough. Alana kept walking. She found her locker, spun the dial, and pulled it open with a creak. Everything about her movements was intentional, controlled. She didn't look around, didn't flinch. She'd played this game before. The staring contest, the hallway landmines. She learned how to move through it without giving anyone more than they deserved. That's when she saw them. Madison Blake. Tall, blonde, flawless. The kind of girl who made rules just by walking into a room. Her laugh was like a cue for others to follow. She didn't have friends. She had followers. Kelsey and Brooke flanked her like bodyguards with lip gloss and deadlier smiles. But what really told Alana everything she needed to know were the boys standing with them. Colton Blake, Madison's older brother, a star linebacker with more attitude than grades. Built like a tank and carried himself like he owned every hallway. Next to him, Zach Marino, lean, cocky, and never far from trouble. Alana turned her attention back to her locker, but she could feel it. Madison was watching her, measuring her. The new girl had just landed on the Queen Bee's radar, and that was never a good thing. First period passed without incident. The whispers followed her, but no one said anything to her face, yet. In the lunchroom, she found a table tucked into the back corner, the kind that always had one empty chair and no attention. She ate slowly, head down, until the laughter started, then the voices. A sharp, familiar tone rang out from across the cafeteria. Well, well, look what we have here. Madison had decided today was the day she made her move. And Alana Rivers? She didn't say a word. Not yet. Brookdale High looked polished on the outside. Clean red brick, trimmed hedges, banners that boasted about college placements and athletic trophies. But Alana knew better than to judge a school by its brochure. What mattered wasn't the awards or the shiny new gym. It was the hallways, the people, the way power moved. And here power didn't wear a crown. It wore name-brand shoes, drove luxury SUVs, and smiled while cutting you down with a whisper. Alana had only been at Brookdale for 3 days, but she'd already figured out the rhythm. The kids here had grown up together, most since kindergarten. They came from the same country clubs, the same gated neighborhoods, the same money. They didn't need to be cruel on purpose. Exclusion was already built into the system. You either belonged or you didn't. And if you didn't, you were reminded every single day. For someone like Alana, a black girl from the east side of Detroit whose mom worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, she might as well have worn a sign that said outsider. She didn't talk like them. She didn't dress like them. And she didn't pretend to be impressed by the things that impressed them. Brookdale had all the usual social divisions: athletes, theater kids, band geeks. But there was another layer, less visible but much more powerful: race and money. They didn't talk about it openly, but it was everywhere. In who got called on in class, in who got praised for leadership versus who got talked to for attitude, in who could walk through the hall with confidence and who had to measure every step. By her second day, Alana had already heard someone mutter the word scholarship under their breath when she walked by. She wasn't even on one, but that didn't matter. To them, a black girl didn't belong at Brookdale unless she was part of a charity or a headline. She kept her head down, just like she always had. But the energy had shifted since the lunchroom incident. That moment, when Madison and her crew had tried to humiliate her and Alana walked away without blinking, had sent a ripple through the school. Students didn't know what to make of her now. She wasn't playing the role they expected. She wasn't the angry black girl, or the scared new kid, or the one trying too hard to fit in. She was something else entirely, and that made her dangerous. Madison, on the other hand, wasn't used to feeling anything but adored. She was Brookdale's golden girl, top of the social ladder, class president, homecoming queen nominee before ballots even printed. She wore her confidence like perfume, loud, lingering, and impossible to ignore. She had built her reputation on control. She knew exactly how to tear someone down in public without ever raising her voice. Her jabs were subtle, veiled in humor. Her targets rarely fought back. They just withered under the weight of being iced out, until Alana. And now Madison was spiraling. Sitting in honors lit the day after the cafeteria scene, Madison barely heard a word the teacher said. She kept tapping her pen against her notebook, her mind circling around the same thought. Why didn't she flinch? Across the room, Alana sat near the window, taking notes in her quiet, steady way. Not fidgeting, not hiding, just existing in full view. And that, more than anything, got under Madison's skin, because power in Brookdale only worked when everyone believed in it. And Alana's calm refusal to be broken had caused something Madison couldn't tolerate. Curiosity. Whispers had started in the halls. She didn't even react. She just walked away like she didn't care. I heard she's from a rough part of Detroit. Maybe she's like trained or something. Dude, what if she actually fights? Madison could feel it slipping. The control, the narrative, the spotlight, and she hated it. Meanwhile, Alana could feel the eyes on her shift. Some students looked at her with new respect. Others watched with the wariness reserved for storms they couldn't predict. But she didn't let it change her. She kept showing up, on time, prepared, quiet, but never meek. She knew what kind of game this was. She just wasn't playing by their rules. It started small, too small for anyone to call it what it really was. In gym class, Kelsey accidentally bumped into Alana during warm-ups, hard enough to make her stumble. Brooke trailed behind, letting her shoulder brush Alana's with a bit too much force. No one said anything. No teacher noticed. But Alana felt it. Not just the contact, but the intent behind it. During basketball, Colton made a point of taking the ball from her, not just stealing it, slamming into her like it was full contact football. The first time it happened, Alana stepped back and let it slide. The second time, she caught herself gritting her teeth. The third time, when she hit the floor hard enough to bruise her hip, Trey laughed from the sidelines. "Damn," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "She plays basketball like she reads." Slow and confused. Laughter followed. Not loud, but sharp, targeted. Alana stood up without a word, didn't dust herself off, didn't flinch, just walked off the court, her expression unreadable. That was the problem. They expected anger, or tears, some kind of reaction. But Alana gave them nothing. And that silence, her refusal to feed the game, only made it worse. By Friday, it had escalated. In the cafeteria, Alana had barely picked up her lunch tray when she felt it, a hard shove from behind. The tray tipped, and food splattered across the tile. Gasps echoed. Then laughter. She didn't have to turn around to know who it was. Madison stood behind her, arms folded, smirking. Brooke and Kelsey flanked her, trying not to laugh too loudly. Colton leaned against the table, arms crossed, enjoying the view. Trey had his phone out, already recording. Madison stepped forward, voice dripping with mock sympathy. "Oh no," she said, feigning concern. "Did the poor new girl drop her lunch? That's just heartbreaking." More laughter. Alana stood still, fists clenched at her sides. Trey leaned in, camera close. "Come on, say something. You from Detroit, right? Let's hear some of that big city attitude." A dozen other phones came out, students eager for drama. This was supposed to be it, the breaking point. The moment the new girl snapped, or cried, or ran, something Madison could spin into another win. Instead, Alana looked up, slowly, and she smiled. It wasn't wide. It wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. The kind of smile that made people uncomfortable without knowing why. Jessica's, no, Madison's, own smirk faltered for a half second. Alana bent down, picked up her tray, walked to the trash, and tossed it in. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't even break stride. She just walked out. Behind her, the cafeteria laughed again, but the sound was off. Awkward, uneven. Something had shifted. That night, sitting at the kitchen table, Alana barely touched her dinner. Her father, Marcus Rivers, leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching her. "You want to talk?" he asked. Alana didn't answer at first. Then she murmured, "I walked away." Marcus nodded slowly. "Because you didn't want to hurt him." Alana's fingers curled around her fork. "Because if I don't, it gets worse." Marcus walked over, pulled out a chair, and sat down across from her. "And if you do?" Her voice tightened. "Last time I did, I got suspended. Kid had a fractured jaw. They called me violent, dangerous, like I wasn't even a person anymore." He nodded again. "That's the game. They push, they provoke. They want the headline, not the truth." Alana looked at him. "So what do I do?" Marcus leaned in, voice low but firm. "You don't start fights, but if they bring one to your feet, you end it. With precision, with discipline. Not because you need to prove anything, but because they need to understand where the line is." Alana said nothing for a long time, but in her silence something settled. Not rage, not revenge, resolve. She wasn't looking for a fight, but it was already looking for her. Alana Rivers hadn't always been quiet. There was a time not so long ago when her voice had weight, her presence had sharpness, and no one mistook her for someone to mess with. But that was before everything changed, before Detroit became a memory, before fists flew, and before the consequences reminded her just how different the world treated a black girl who fought back. She'd grown up in her father's gym, Rivers Boxing and Fitness, a converted warehouse near Gratiot Avenue. It smelled like sweat, leather, and discipline. Alana could throw a proper jab before she could ride a bike. While other little girls twirled in ballet class, she was on the mat learning how to breathe through punches, how to duck, pivot, counter. Her father, Marcus Rivers, was a former Marine and once held a lightweight state title in Michigan. He believed in structure, honor, and control. "I'm not raising a fighter," he used to say. "I'm raising someone who knows when not to fight." But when Alana was 14, that line got tested. It happened in the hallway of her old school. An argument, a shove, a boy twice her size cornering her and saying the wrong thing with the wrong tone. He reached for her wrist, and she reacted on instinct. One takedown, one punch, one fractured jaw. No one cared that he touched her first. No one cared that she walked away immediately after. The headlines didn't read, "Girl defends herself." They read, "Black student hospitalizes classmate in school fight." The school suspended her indefinitely. The boy's parents threatened legal action. Her name was dragged across local news and social media as a violent teen. No mention of her honor roll status. No mention of her clean record. Just another angry black girl with a temper. The fallout was quiet and crushing. Her mother, already sick at the time, passed away 3 months later. The stress didn't cause it, but it sure didn't help. After that, Marcus packed them up and left Detroit behind. They moved to a quieter town in New York. Alana transferred schools, changed numbers, deleted her social media. She made a promise to herself, no more fighting, not with her hands, not with her anger. She would control the narrative by not giving them one. And so she shrank herself, not in strength. She was still training in secret every morning at 6 a.m., still shadowboxing in the basement, still doing her drills with robotic precision, but in expression. She stopped correcting teachers who mispronounced her name. She let whispers slide, let eyes pass over her. She became the girl no one saw coming. But now at Brookdale, it was happening again. Same game, new players. And yet something inside her had changed since Detroit. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't out to prove her worth. She already knew it. What she feared wasn't losing her temper. It was what might happen if she stopped holding it in. Because she remembered the sound of that boy's ribs hitting the locker. She remembered the silence afterward, the look in the teacher's eyes, not fear of what had happened, but fear of her. Like she was something dangerous, something barely contained. Marcus never blamed her. He trained her for exactly that kind of moment, but he made it clear. You carry power now, and the world doesn't like a black girl who knows how to use it. He taught her to think 3 steps ahead, to make decisions, not reactions, to strike only when the moment demanded it, and then only enough to stop the threat, never more. She never forgot that. So when Madison shoved her lunch to the floor, when Trey aimed that camera phone at her, when Colton smirked like she was prey, Alana didn't freeze. She remembered who she was. Not a victim, not a warrior, something in between, a protector of her own peace. And if they pushed hard enough to awaken that side of her again, they'd find out exactly how dangerous silence can be. The final bell rang at 3:05 p.m. Alana knew the moment had arrived before she even stepped out of her last class. She could feel it in the air, charged, humming, like the calm before a summer storm. The whispers were louder today, more focused. Students who usually ignored her stole glances. A few even looked concerned. Word had gotten around. Behind the gym, after school, Madison versus the new girl. No teachers, no cameras, just an old, cracked stretch of blacktop where fights happened when adults weren't watching. Alana didn't need confirmation. She'd seen it before. Same setup, different school. She didn't hesitate. She packed up her books, zipped her bag, and walked. Slow, steady, like nothing about this day was different. When she stepped behind the building, they were already waiting. Madison Blake stood in the center, arms crossed, her chin raised like a queen surveying her court. Kelsey and Brooke flanked her as usual, but today they were more stiff than smug. Behind them, Colton stood with his arms folded, wearing that same cocky smirk, while Zach Moreno paced nearby, cracking his knuckles for show. And surrounding them, at least 30 students, phones out, whispers flying. They had come for the takedown, the public defeat, the final reminder that no one challenged Madison Blake and walked away unscathed. Ilana walked to the center of the circle, stopping a few feet from Madison. Her expression was unreadable, calm, collected, measured. That more than anything unsettled the crowd. Madison raised a brow. "Wow, you actually showed up," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Thought maybe you'd run off like yesterday." Alana didn't blink. "I wasn't running," Madison scoffed. "Right. You didn't even try to stand up for yourself." Ilana tilted her head, the faintest glint of amusement in her eyes. "You think dumping food on someone's tray is a fight?" The smile on Madison's face twitched. "Oh, don't worry," she replied, stepping forward. "I plan to make it a real one." But before she could say another word, Alana said something that stopped the air cold. "I'm here to warn you." Madison froze. "Warn me?" Kelsey and Brooke exchanged a glance. Zach shifted uncomfortably. Colton just frowned. Alana's voice remained even. "You don't want to do this," the crowd murmured. Madison forced a laugh. "You threatening me now?" "Not a threat," Alana replied. "A warning." The stillness in her tone cut through the noise like a blade. There was no fear, no anger, just a fact. Madison hated it, hated the way her chest tightened, hated the way her heartbeat ticked up like she just lost control of the moment. She nodded toward Colton. "Fine. She wants to act tough. Let her deal with this." Colton rolled his shoulders, grinning as he stepped forward. "Go easy on you?" he asked mockingly. Alana didn't answer. He swung, and just like that, he wasn't standing anymore. She stepped inside his reach, grabbed his wrist, and used his own weight to flip him clean onto the pavement. It happened in under 2 seconds. One move, one thud. Colton lay there coughing, stunned, unable to breathe. The crowd gasped. Zach hesitated, but his ego wouldn't let him stop. He rushed her, throwing a wild hook. Alana ducked, sidestepped, caught his arm mid-swing. A sharp twist, a pivot of her hip, and he was down too, sprawled out, arm pinned behind his back. She let go the second he stopped struggling. Silence. Heavy, full. Phones were still recording, but no one was laughing anymore. Alana stood there, hands loose at her sides, breathing steady, her face calm. Finally, she turned back to Madison. "Do you still think I was running?" Madison couldn't speak. Her mouth was dry, her thoughts scattered. For the first time in her life, she wasn't in control, and everyone knew it. Desperate, Madison lunged. She didn't plan it, didn't think, just moved. Her hand reached for Alana's hair in a final blind attempt to regain power. She never got there. Alana caught her wrist midair, gently but firmly. She didn't twist, didn't yank, just held it, effortlessly. Then she looked Madison in the eye and said the words that shattered her. "You have no power over me, and you never will." Then she let go. Madison stumbled back, her balance gone, her pride in pieces. Alana didn't celebrate, didn't smile. She simply turned and walked away, leaving Madison standing in the middle of the circle, humiliated in front of the same crowd that used to worship her. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was final. The next morning, Brookdale High felt different. The walls were still the same beige brick, the hallways just as crowded, the bell just as sharp. But something had shifted. Something in the way people walked, in the way they looked at one another, in the way they looked at Alana Rivers. She walked through the main corridor with the same steady stride as always, shoulders relaxed, eyes forward. But the energy around her had changed. Students who once whispered behind her back now stepped aside as she passed. Some offered small nods. Others simply watched, uncertain, curious, maybe even impressed. At her usual table in the cafeteria, Alana sat alone, just like before. But this time, she wasn't invisible. People saw her, not as a novelty, not as a threat, as someone who had stood her ground and walked away whole. Across the room, Madison Blake sat rigid, picking at her food. Kelsey and Brooke barely made eye contact. Colton nursed a bruised ego in silence. Zach avoided everyone. The phones had captured everything the day before, and though no one said it out loud, the footage spoke volumes. Madison hadn't just lost a fight, she had lost control. Her grip on the social order of Brookdale had cracked, and everyone felt it. Not because Alana had taken her place, she hadn't. She wasn't trying to, but because Alana had refused to play the game. She didn't fight to dominate. She fought to end it. That kind of strength didn't just shake the room. It rewrote the rules. By lunchtime, students were still whispering, not about Madison, but about Alana. Not in fear, but in respect. A few girls from other friend groups nodded as they passed. Two basketball players fist bumped her in the hallway. Even a teacher offered a subtle, approving smile. But Alana, she just kept moving. She wasn't interested in the attention. She wasn't here to become a queen bee or rewrite her story with popularity. She had done what she needed to do. Later that day, just before the final bell, Madison approached her. No crowd, no camera, no backup. Her eyes were different, tired, uncertain. "I didn't think you'd fight back," she said quietly. Alana looked at her, calm as ever. "I didn't," she replied. "I finished it." Then she turned and walked away, leaving behind a girl who had finally learned what real power looked like. Not loud, not cruel, not built on fear, but grounded in dignity, strength, and unshakable self-worth. Because sometimes the strongest thing a person can do isn't to fight for the throne. It's to stand, endure, and walk away when the battle no longer defines you.